All right. Sorry, I was doing my lazy eye. Trying to start it with a little bit of humor. All right, the test review. You got 40 questions. I knocked off one of them. It was an essay, but I give you the essay question today on the quiz. So 40 questions. It's a little bit different format than the previous test. A lot of maps and charts, and so overall it shouldn't be too difficult. All right, so a few things. Nile River, obviously you need to know that that's the longest river in the world. It provides, obviously, life in general for Egypt. Is the reason why they're able to live there. And know that 95% of the population lives along the Nile River since they rely on it so much since they're in the middle of the Sahara Desert. You need to know about Mount Kilimanjaro. That's the tallest mountain in Africa. There's not that many mountains in Africa, but that's the tallest one, and it's always snow-capped, so there's always snow on top. I need to know some characteristics of the Sahara Desert. First off, its location, which is northern Africa. Some characteristics, obviously insanely hot during the day, can drop below freezing at night. Has an underground aquifer that averages about 6,000 feet below the surface of the Sahara. You know your other climate regions that you see in Africa, obviously hot and dry deserts, you see rainforest, tropical grasslands, and some mountains, but remember, of course, that's going to be the smallest one. Rainforest and grasslands take up the majority. All right, you need to know about the Serengeti. That's a large grassland near Kenya. That's where you see a lot of wildlife like lions and things of that sort are in the Serengeti. So it's a grassland like where we live, except there, well, there's lions and there's pretty tall grass. All right, desertification. You know where that's occurring. That's along the Sahel, which is along the southern part of the Sahara Desert. And you know what causes it. Obviously, farming, overgrazing of livestock, and slash and burn, which where like tribes go in there and cut down trees and things like that, and then farm for a while. Oil drilling. You need, obviously, oil is a big resource, especially in northern Africa and western. You need to remember that one area I showed you in Nigeria, along the Niger River. There's tons of pollution and damage done because of oil drilling. That's the picture that you saw where it looked like the river was pretty much just oil, where it looked disgusting. Aswan High Dam, we talked about that in depth. It's along the Nile River. Need to know the problems that causes, as well as the things that it fixed, such as getting rid of the threat of flooding, supply of water for irrigating crops, but also got rid of the silt that would be left behind from the flooding. And then, of course, you get a breeding ground for mosquitoes in Lake Nasser, which is going to bring about more malaria in the region. See here, a map, chart. All right, the Berlin Conference. I hammered that into your head pretty much, but you need to know, again, the purpose of the Berlin Conference. And that's where European powers met together and they divided up Africa among themselves to avoid war among European nations. So they didn't care about the Africans. They didn't care about what was best for them or what tribes got along. They didn't talk to them at all. So it's just European countries dividing up Africa among themselves. This happened in 1884-85. And this is what led to the conflicts like the Rwandan genocide, where Europeans created groups in those countries and then put them together and then gave them independence and then pretty much left them alone, which ended up being a horrible mistake. All right, a stateless society. We went over this back in Unit 2, so this is one of those things back in Unit 2 I told you need to remember for the rest of the year. A stateless society is a group of people or a nation that does not have any type of government over itself. So instead, like in Africa, for example, they all come from one common ancestor, and so they're all related. Basically, it's basically like a tribe. They're all related. They come from a common ancestor, but they don't have a country or anything like that. All right, South Africa, the country of South Africa. We talked about apartheid there. You remember what that is? That was the segregation of the races, the blacks and the whites, that lasted until 1994. You need to know that they also brought about economic sanctions against South Africa, mainly from the U.S. and the British, to try to put pressure on them to get rid of apartheid. And of course, you also need to know that that ended with the election of Nelson Mandela and him getting rid of that policy. More maps. I think the rest is maps and charts. It is. All right. So the rest is maps and charts. So like this test has a lot more of the maps and charts because we haven't done as many of those on previous tests. And this will help you get ready for STAR because STAR will have a good amount of charts and be able to interpret data. So if any questions, just come in tutoring before school tomorrow. I get here around 7:30. Other than that, I'll see y'all in class. Good luck.